Hi, I am Myra with Hearth Wisdom Store, and we are doing our very first Kitchen Witchery video episode. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people ask me what they should do as far as setting intentions and to create more magical energy for the new year to attract what they want in that new year. So this video is going to focus on something that I do for the store every year as part of my magical practice of setting intention for the goals that we want to achieve. So the two things we're going to talk about in this video is the crafting of a honey jar that we do for the store every year. And if you've ever been in the store, you'll see us work the honey jar throughout the year. There's a candle that we place on here throughout the day as we want to recharge it and build more energy towards it. And then we're also going to work on a simmer pot where I take the water from the simmer pot and use it into a wash that I can use in the store to continuously cleanse and set that intention over and over again. So if you like to learn more about kitchen witchery and practical application of things that you can do every day, really simply in your home, then click and subscribe and follow us for more videos. Let's first start talking a little bit about what a honey jar is and what it does. A honey jar is designed to attract and to sweeten up a situation. Because it's sticky, it brings things to you, and the items that you put in a honey jar are all designed to attract what it is that you want to bring or draw towards you. And so a honey jar can be used for any particular intention, any particular situation that you want to attract. Maybe you want to attract love, maybe you want to attract success, maybe you want to attract more peace and tranquility or health. And so the honey in the jar is designed to help bring that to you and to emphasize the intention of what you want to attract. So let's start working on the new one for this year. All of these materials and supplies will be in the description below, and they are some that are pretty common and easy to get your hands on or to order as well. So they're very common tools that you can use. I'm going to be using a bell jar. You can get these at any grocery store. I think I had a whole bunch of these left over from some crafting that I did with my daughter, or for that you use for storing items. They can be any size. I chose a little bit of a bigger one this year simply because of the items that are going into the bell jar. I want to make sure that they're all in there and they're all intact. And so we're starting off with our materials. So I have a bell jar. I obviously also have honey. You can use any kind of honey. I do recommend that you make sure that it's real honey. There's some honey that is available at the grocery store, especially the ones in the honey bears. They're not actually honey, it's just corn syrup. So find something that is real honey. The honey that I'm using for this spell is actually very special to me. This honey is honey that was gathered from my father's property and infused with lilac flowers, because it's meaningful to me. It means more in my work, in my energy and magical energy. And the part of it also that we're working with some ancestral work as well is why I'm using this type of honey. I'm also going to need any oils that you want to use in your workings. So I've brought out our prosperity oil. So this is an oil that we craft in the store, and I'll be using a few drops of the prosperity oil. I also brought out Crown of Success. This is another oil that we craft in the store as well. And then I also grabbed our business draw oil. So whatever your focus is, obviously this is a honey jar for the store. So it's going to be focused on things like success and prosperity and those intentions. But you'll want to use oils that are reflective of the energy that you want to draw in. I also have a number of crystals that we pulled. These are all crystals that are focused on things like wellness and health and prosperity, communication, all the things that as a team we want to draw into the store. We also have some herbs. I've already poured out some of these herbs into a bowl so that you don't necessarily have to measure them. I just kind of go with your intention or go with your instincts. And so in here we have mojo beans, 7 to be exact, for luck. We have cinnamon, we have allspice and cloves, which are prosperity herbs that also bring a lot of intention and fire into the honey jar. We've got grains of paradise for protection, and we have golden seal as well for success and luck. We have star of anise in there as well. And then we have a buckeye, which is good for business and drawing in prosperity. Patchouli, again, for money. So those are all my herbs that I'm going to be putting in my honey jar. And then last, as far as what's going inside the honey jar, I had the team write out some intention on some bay leaves. And so on here we have words of intention, things like happiness and teamwork, prosperity. All of these are part of the spell work, and the fact that every member of the team was able to kind of put some type of energy into the honey jar helps it to be a collective work of magic for the store. Oh, and last but not least, I'm also putting in, I always put into my honey jar spells some type of currency or some type of coin magic. This is a mercury dime. The reason why I'm using the mercury dime, I used a silver dollar last year, is because mercury dimes and silver dollars have a high concentration of silver, real silver in the coins. And so if you want to make sure that you're using that element of money and metals in your honey jar, try to make sure that you find coins that actually have that type of energy in them, or that are still unique or still have components of the metal that you're looking for. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So first I'm going to actually light my candles on my workspace here. I light a black candle for protection, because anytime you're doing magical work, you want to make sure that your space is protected and that your energies are contained so that they cannot be interfered. I also light a white candle for my guides and for my ancestors to help guide the work that I'm doing. Now you can decide if you want to pray over your honey jar, or if you want to put a blessing or a petition paper in there with very specific guidelines about what you want to attract. Instead of petition paper, I decided to use the bay leaves instead this time around. And so that will be a stand-in for the petition work that I want to use in this jar. Now for petition paper, you can use any type of brown paper. I do encourage that you recycle and reuse. We usually include brown paper in the bags that we give your items to you in the store. Those are great resources for petition paper, is to take the wrapping paper and just kind of crinkle it up and use that to write your intentions in your guide. Okay, so I started with my honey. So I have my honey base in my jar. I'm going to go ahead and add my mercury dime as the first item in here, because one of the elements of success is being able to have the money and the resources to do all the work that we want to do and all the expansion that we want to do. So that's the first piece that I'm adding to my honey jar. I'm then going to add my bay leaves. So I would normally put my petition paper in. And so this is going to be the stand-in for my petition, because I want all of my other ingredients to go on top of my petition. So I'm going to add in all of my bay leaves. It's okay if they crack. It's not a big deal if they get broken on the way in. But I'm going to make sure that they're all in there as a layer. You have all words like connect and gratitude and teamwork, communication, all there in the honey jar. So that's now in. I am going to use my herbal blend to then put that next layer on there. So I guess the biggest thing I want to make sure that gets in the jar is all of my components that are numerically based. So all of my mojo beans, all 7 of them. I dropped a few pieces on the altar. That's okay. But I want to make sure all of my herbs are in there, all of my components. So I've got a nice layer going. Okay. So next I'm going to put in some of my oils. So I'm going to start with my prosperity oil. I just want to make sure that there's a nice amount of prosperity oil that goes on top of all of the herbs. So if you notice, I'm not measuring. This is all intuitive work that you want to use. Crown of Success. Crown of Success is all about making sure that whatever you're putting your effort to ending up as a successful conclusion. So anytime you're working on like a project or you're working on a goal, Crown of Success is the type of oil that you would want to use for that. And then my last one is Business Draw as well. So again, since this is for the store, we want to continue to attract and assist more people on their spiritual journey. So we want to draw more people in so that we can help them. Oops, I noticed that there's a bay leaf in the bottom of my bowl. If that happens, it's fine. Make sure you go in there. Okay, so you can see it's really well coated in the bottom of the jar. Okay, lastly, I'm going to add my crystals onto the top of it. Over time, your honey jar will probably start to seal up and solidify as far as closure or closing around it. You can reopen and refeed a honey jar if needed, if you feel like the energy is not fully working for what you want to work with. So by adding more oils, or you can add more honey on top of it. I have fed my jar before, but at some point you start to get to the place where it starts to seal over, either with wax or if there's honey around the edges or whatnot, it'll eventually start to seal your jar. Once it's sealed, I don't recommend reopening it. Okay, so that is my complete honey jar. So I have all my crystals in there, all my herbs and my oils. And I'm going to go ahead and close up my intentions. Now, before I feel like this work has been completed, what I want to do for the first time of setting this jar is to place a candle on top of it in order to say a prayer, to ask for my guides, and to ask for all of the energies in the store to help continue to bless this jar throughout the year so that we have continued success and continued magic in the intention that we want to set for the year. I have a little bit of prosperity oil still on my hands, and so I'm going to go ahead and dress the candle towards me with that oil. And I ask for divine intervention, the work from our ancestor, all of our spirits and guides that help to achieve the mission of our store, to welcome them to bless this candle and to bless this work, this magic, this honey jar, so that way we may continue to have a full year of success and family and gratitude and communication and teamwork and love and good health, all the things, all the energy and intention that we've put into this jar. So mote it be. And then I'll let that burn out. And every time I want to reset my intentions, then I can relight a new candle on top of it, and that will continue to feed and build that energy throughout the year. And it becomes a permanent piece on our altar space at the store. Try not to. And just like that. And that should only take about maybe about an hour or so to burn down. Okay. Well, we add new candles to this probably daily. You know, anytime that we're feeling like maybe if it's a little bit slow, or if the energy feels a little bit off, or some of the intentions that we know that are in the jar are perhaps not being fully met, that anytime we feel that, we'll light another candle on the top of the jar just as a reminder to draw that in and to focus in on that intention. And so anytime that you're feeling a little bit throughout the year that you need to refocus, or that you need to rebuild, or to re-energize or recharge what your intention for your jar is, that is when I would light a candle and put that on top of your honey jar. What you want to do with a honey jar when you're done with it, you want to bury anything that you want to continue to draw with you. So I will actually take this honey jar and bury it, or put it somewhere around the store to continue to do the work, and because I want to keep it close to me and close to my area of focus. So if you're doing this at your house, you would want to bury this at your house or in your backyard. So you always want to bury things that you're using to attract, and you want to dispose of things that you want to get rid of. So if you plan on building a honey jar for your New Year's intentional work, I'd love to hear about what it is that you want to build for the coming year and what elements you put into your honey jar. Feel free to comment below, or if you have any questions about working with a honey jar element or building all of those different intentional layers, feel free to ask those questions in the comments below, and to let us know how we can help you build a more successful New Year. Another tradition that I do at the beginning of a new year is a simmer pot. Now, many of you may do a simmer pot and not realize that you're actually doing a form of magical infusion of herbs and intentions. But hopefully this will inspire you that the next time you put together a simmer pot, that you will give it some additional consideration about what it is that you're doing with the intention that you're putting into it, and how you want to use it afterwards. At the beginning of the year, I like to do a New Year's simmer pot where I'm using different infusions of herbs based on the intention that I want to attract for the coming year. And part of the reason why I do that is that simmer pots are a form of incense. The difference is that we're used to thinking about incense as a smoke form, or burning herbs, or the smoke that you get from an incense stick. And that's using fire and air as your primary elements to bring about magical intention, or to set and clear a space, or to trigger some type of a intention in yourself based off of the scent that you have, and for smoke cleansing. A simmer pot is a form of incense that uses water instead as its foundation, through the use of steam, to carry the same elements and the same magic into your space and into your intentional area. I do like that because I think it gives you a different elemental exposure. It also gives you a little bit more of an emotional attachment, because the element of water is attached to our empathy and into our emotional connection. And so if it's something that you really are wanting to connect with and you want to dedicate yourself to, a simmer pot is a great way of doing some type of a magical infusion and blending in the elements of water and emotions. They say that scent is one of our senses that has the highest recall when it comes to memory and when it comes to association. So if you've ever smelled something that reminded you of a place or a person or a scenario or situation and took you back to that, it also can take you back emotionally. You start to feel that in your heart chakra area as far as remembering and recalling. And so scent is one of the senses that we have that can help to reset the energy and intention that we are expressing. It's the reason why I think aromatherapy is so effective. If you've ever used oils on yourself or on a lava bead bracelet and you smell that scent, it can bring you back into alignment with what it is that you want to try to achieve or what you're trying to focus on. And so we're going to do a simmer pot for the new year to focus our intention for the rest of the year. What I do with the simmer pot after I'm done with it is that I will filter out all of the herbs and everything like that, and strain it out and take the water and use that in a wash that I will use in the store to help reset the intention of the store. So it's one of my favorite things to do at the beginning of the year because it's such a complete use of all of the things that you're using. So you're not only putting in the herbs and everything, you can totally use that to sprinkle around your space or around your home. You can even bathe in it if it's safe to bathe in. Be cautious about drinking your simmer pots. There are some herbs that are not good for you to consume, or if you're putting oils or anything that could be toxic and leach into that, you definitely don't want to drink anything that would be harmful to you. But there's a lot of uses for the water after you're done with it with a simmer pot. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started on our simmer pot, I do want to talk a little bit about safety first. We have some candles on our altar, and we also have a couple of hot items on our altar. And I do want to make sure that I say, never leave candles burning unattended. And if you are going to be working with a simmer pot, never leave a pot on the oven simmering unattended as well. Even though we have this in a crock pot, the crock pot is very hot. And so you don't want to leave this in a place that children or pets could possibly bump into it and burn themselves, not realizing that it's on. So just remember to keep safety in mind whenever you're doing your magical work. With that being said, there are a couple of different ways I want to suggest setting up your simmer pot or your simmer brew. You can do this traditionally on a stove with a saucepan. That works really well. That way you can kind of stir it and you're in the kitchen, and while you're cooking other things, you could have this going on in the background. But what if you live in a place that you are not able to do that in the public area? Maybe you have roommates or family members who would not maybe appreciate what it is that you're doing on the oven top. You can use a crock pot. The nice thing about a crock pot is that you can let it sit and kind of simmer throughout the day without it running the stove and potentially having a fire hazard on the stove. The other thing that I wanted to suggest for those who perhaps are maybe in the broom closet or have small spaces and cannot use a larger pot to brew in, you can also use a wax burner or a wax melt. This way you have a smaller working space and a more contained working space within a smaller area. And it also can be concealed for mundane eyes who may be looking at what it is that you're doing. There's also another trick that you can use with the wax after you're done, and I will mention that after we're done with the rest of the simmer pot. I do have a couple of products that I'm going to be using in our simmer brew. One of the items is our Magical Pantry, which is a monthly subscription box with a theme every month of a different topic. So this month is psychic development. And so inside the box is a collection of herbs that are themed. And we are going to be using the cedar herb from this collection in this simmer pot. It also comes with a Book of Shadows page for each one of the herbs so that you can build your Book of Shadow, and also your pantry of resources for herbs. So that's one of the items that we're using. We also are using some smaller herbs to go into the wax melt that are similar to the herbs that I already prepared for the larger pot that we're going to be using in the crock pot. These are orange peel chips. The orange peels were included in a previous Magical Pantry box as well. So if you've already received the orange peels, then you can use those herbs in this recipe as well. And then the wax that I'm using in the wax melt is a Hoodoo Priestess product. It is Road Opener. I figured with the new year getting started and we want to kind of unblock some of the past year's obstacles and challenges, that this would make a great wax base for our wax melt burner. Okay. Lastly, I am going to be including some oils in my actual simmer pot. So as I mentioned before, if you're going to put oils in your simmer pot, these are perhaps not the best pots to use for anything drinking wise or to consume, because they do include essential oils. We do not recommend that you consume essential oils. But this could totally go into a bathroom or a bath draw as a bath tea and can be used. A lot of oils are okay and safe on surfaces for cleaning products as well. In my simmer pot, the large crock pot, I am going to be using a blend of herbs that I've actually put together some of this. Now, a couple of these items you'll notice are items that I did use in my honey jar spell for the store, because they have a lot of the same intentions and a lot of the same energy that I want to attract in my simmer pot. I clipped some rosemary from my front yard this morning. The oranges are oranges that I dried over Yule, and so I'm repurposing seasonal tools that I have crafted. And I've also got a blend of cinnamon and cloves and allspice in this bowl already pre-made. Now, one of the really lovely things about simmer pots, if you pre-make them, they make amazing gifts to give to people, especially over the holidays or for just special occasions. So this is an example of all of the herbs that are going into the simmer pot already put together in a lovely jar. You could tie a nice little ribbon on it, and it makes a really neat magical gift to give to somebody to begin their new year. And so in this jar, we have just a list of the herbs that we're using. We're using the bay leaves. Again, that's our intentional work and our prosperity work. We are also using Life Everlasting for good health and to help attract healthy habits and just general physical good health. We have in here also cedar for protection. That is included in the Magical Pantry this month. We have rosemary and orange peel, like I mentioned from the previous holidays. Cinnamon, allspice, and cloves. Those are great additives for prosperity and luck. And then we have patchouli for money, a star of anise, and then grains of paradise for the protection of the store and to keep negative energies and negative intentions out of the space. So I've already started to warm up my water. If you're doing this on the stove, then you're going to want to make sure that you have your water already started to warm up. It's very hot, you just heard it simmer. And I'm including the herbs into my pot, but you want to make sure that you are mindful of the fact that the water is going to boil off and it's going to steam off. That's how you get your incense and your fragrance. So make sure that you've got enough water in your pot to thoroughly cover all of your herbs and everything that you put into your pot. Now, if you're going to let this simmer over a longer period of time, make sure that you check on it, that you don't allow for all of the water to evaporate and leave items in the bottom of your pan or in your pot or even in your wax melt that could potentially start burning. It can destroy pots. It can also catch fire and whatnot. So safety, again, make sure that you are feeding more water into your brew if you plan on simmering it over an extended period of time. I'm also including these two oils. I'm adding neroli, which is also orange blossom. If you didn't know that neroli is orange blossom oil. So if you've been we've had a couple of people ask for orange blossom oil and not realize that neroli is orange blossom. To help bring in some happiness into our space. It can be very stressful, especially when you're in a business setting or in a work setting. And so we wanted to use the oil to help attract that aromatherapy and that reminder of happiness and joy. You are much more successful in your life and in your business when you are happy and you're doing the kind of work that you like to do. I'm also adding benzoin for more of that positive business and positive impact that we want to have in our community. So now that I have all of my oils and my herbs inside of my pot, I'm ready to stir the pot. And when you are stirring, that is how you are infusing your intention, is your connection to the oils, the herbs, the components that you've put into your pot. Now, I always start with, when I'm working on a simmer pot, I'm always stirring in a clockwise direction because I'm trying to attract something. Now, if you're doing a simmer pot in order to dispel negativity, you can turn it the other way. You can go counterclockwise in order to dispel something or to banish it. The number of turns is going to be dependent upon you. You might decide to use and work in some numerology or work in some number magic. So 7 is a great number for luck and prosperity and for business. 13 is a positive number for business. You may be wanting to work with ancestors, and so you may decide to work with a master number like 11 or 22. And so whatever number of turns you want to put into your pot is up to you based on your intention. And that is our simmer pot based on a water foundation or on a water base. Now I want to show you a little bit about how to use the wax melt and building a smaller version of a simmer pot using the wax that you have in a wax burner or wax melt. Now, with a wax burner, you don't need to use as much of herbs. In fact, I recommend that you don't. So this way you have less fire hazard and you have smaller particles inside the wax. Because one of the things I suggest doing with the wax after as the year kind of progresses, or when the wax cools or starts to cool down, you can pour the wax into a candle and make a candle with the wax that you then use to burn perhaps at the end of the year, or if you're needing some additional magic to help infuse that. So you can reuse this in a slightly different way than how you are using the simmer pot in the water. Now, again, you don't want to add too much herb into the wax, especially if you decide that you want to turn it into a candle. The more additives that you have inside of a candle, the more fire hazard it can provide when you start lighting a flame. So I know they're really pretty with a lot of extra added elements in there, but we're trying to infuse it with our magical work, not necessarily to appease it for appearance purposes. So I'm just taking a pinch of all of the herbs that I had already pre-blended to make sure I get all of my representations in there, and that there's enough of each one of my intentions based on each one of the herbs, just to put it into my wax melt and have that also with the same intention. And unfortunately, you can't smell it, but it smells great. That's one of the things I mentioned before, is that it's an infusion to help with smell, because we're using steam and we're using water droplets to carry our intention. So this pot, I'm probably going to leave this pot on in the store for a little while, just to help, bring in that infusion, that sense of joy and happiness and comfort. And then when I'm done with the pot, when I'm ready to take the elements out of there, I will drain the herbs out of the pot. Now, typically with herbs, I love to use all of the pieces. So I will take those herbs, wrap them up, put them in a container that I'll take home, and I'll actually put them in my garden. So that way you can compost them and recycle them, give them back to the earth. And then I will take the liquid that is in my simmer pot that's remaining, that's been fused and charged up with all of my intention, and I will add that to a base of wash that I use in the store to help wash the surfaces, help cleanse the surfaces. All of this is for New Year's intention, to help draw in and bring in everything that we want to achieve with the new year. So this is something we do every year. And it's, if you were looking for ideas about what do I do to clear out the negativity, clear out the previous year, start off with a clean slate, this is an easy recipe and an easy activity to do at the beginning of each year. Let us know what kind of simmer pots or brew pots are your favorite types of brews or recipes. Is there anything that you've done at the beginning of this year that is something that you do every year as part of your New Year's intention and setting the whole year's beginning energies and focus and what you want to draw and attach to that year? If there's something that you do that's unique with your simmer pots or special ingredients that you find are appealing or have been very effective, share those in the comments with us. Also, share questions that you might have and other ways and ideas of how to use the water or if you've ever used the wax melts in a different way, give us your ideas so that we can share those with the rest of the community and build more magical knowledge and help to encourage more curiosity when it comes to your spiritual practice. If you'd like to see more of these videos, we are going to be doing an entire series on kitchen witchery for this year. It's one of our new goals to help inspire education and to help to bring different ideas to our magical community about how to use all the tools that you may have acquired in a different way, or to also encourage you to bring magic into your kitchen space or in your common everyday activity of cooking, and to nourish your body and nourish your soul. All of these products that you've seen on the table, these are items that we can link in the description below. If you want to get more information about other products that we may have used in this video, please ask us in the comments and we will be sure to share those with you as well. I want to thank you guys for joining us with our very first Kitchen Witchery episode, and how we use our intentions at the beginning of the year with a new simmer pot and a new honey jar spell for the store at Hearth Wisdom Store. We are so excited to be bringing you this new content in the new year. So please click like, subscribe, get notifications so that you can join us on our new adventure when it comes to posting new videos and social media content. I'm Myra, and it's so good to be with you. Merry meet.